Breaking. Over 900 U.S. workers just lost their jobs, and that's only the beginning. Apple is moving production to India, Stellantis is shutting down plants, and Chinese giants like Shein and Temu are pulling back fast. Tariffs meant to protect American jobs are now pushing major companies out of the U.S. market. In this video, we reveal the 6 companies making their exit and how it could cost you more than just money. In early 2025, Apple made a major move that shocked many in the tech world. For the first time, India became the top exporter of iPhones to the United States, shipping over 3.3 million units in just one quarter. That's a massive 76% jump from the year before, according to Bloomberg. And it didn't happen by accident. With the U.S. government considering a 25% tariff on smartphones made outside the country, Apple knew it had to act fast. Instead of shifting production to the U.S., where labor and facility costs are high, Apple looked to India. The company invested heavily, backing a new $1.5 billion Foxconn factory in Bengaluru. This single facility is expected to create around 50,000 local jobs and boost India's status as a tech manufacturing hub. By the end of 2025, experts say nearly 65% of iPhones sold in the U.S. may come from India. This isn't just a supply chain change, it's a global shift. Apple is playing smart, avoiding tariffs while keeping profits high. But there's a cost. That production could have meant thousands of new jobs in America. So while U.S. consumers still get their iPhones, American workers are left out of the picture. Apple's pivot shows how fast companies can move, especially when policy decisions come with a big price tag. In April 2025, Stellantis, maker of Jeep, Dodge, and Chrysler, announced a shocking decision. 900 American workers were being laid off across 5 U.S. plants. The reason? A sudden 25% tariff on imported vehicles. These tariffs were meant to boost American-made cars, but instead, they've made Stellantis's North American operations too expensive to run. The company also halted production at factories in Mexico and Canada, showing just how quickly a single policy can hit an entire continent. The United Auto Workers Union didn't hold back. They called the layoffs a horrifying consequence of reckless tariffs, blaming policymakers for putting jobs at risk. The damage didn't stop there. Stellantis pulled its full-year financial forecast after reporting a 20% drop in North American sales, citing the rising cost of doing business. Other automakers are also feeling the pressure. Ford began offering steep employee discounts to keep demand steady, while Nissan paused orders for some of its Mexico-built SUVs. What's clear is this: the auto industry is in a panic. Stellantis is just the first major player to buckle, and more could follow if tariffs continue to rise. For workers, this means less job security. For consumers, it could mean higher car prices and fewer choices on the lot. MGA Entertainment, the company behind Bratz and LOL Surprise Dolls, is making big changes to avoid the rising cost of doing business with China. In 2025, the U.S. slapped higher tariffs, up to 40%, on imported toys from China. Since China currently makes about 77% of all toys sold in the U.S., that hit hard. MGA responded by shifting 40% of its manufacturing to countries like India, Vietnam, and Indonesia, quadrupling its previous overseas output. But here's what's surprising. None of that new production is coming to the U.S. Even though the company is based in California, MGA says American production is still too expensive. That means the jobs and factories could have come home, but didn't. And this isn't just about one company. MGA's move reflects a bigger trend in the toy industry, where brands are choosing cheaper markets overseas rather than bringing manufacturing back to American soil. Retailers like Walmart and Target may soon face higher prices and tighter inventory, especially with the holiday season approaching. Consumers will likely feel the effects at the checkout, fewer toy choices and bigger price tags. MGA's shift is smart business under the current rules, but it's also a missed opportunity for American workers hoping these trade changes would bring jobs home. In 2025, two of the fastest-growing online retailers, Shein and Temu, ran into a major roadblock. A U.S. policy change removed the de minimis rule, which had allowed packages under $800 to enter the country tariff-free. Now every shipment faces taxes as high as 145%, making their low-cost, fast shipping model suddenly much more expensive. The change was aimed at cracking down on Chinese e-commerce dominance, but it's having far-reaching effects. Both Shein and Temu quickly hit the brakes. They slashed U.S. advertising budgets, paused influencer partnerships, and began relying more on U.S.-based warehouses to avoid massive import fees. But the damage was already done. Smaller foreign brands that depended on these platforms, like the UK's Space NK and Canada's Understand, have already stopped shipping to the US entirely. For American shoppers, that means fewer products, slower delivery, and higher prices on the kinds of cheap goods these sites were known for. Temu is now trying to shift some operations stateside, but the cost and speed are major challenges. Shein is also exploring new logistics models, but neither has found a full solution. What started as a policy to level the playing field is now pushing these e-commerce giants to rethink their entire U.S. strategy and taking consumer choice down with it. Alcoa, America's biggest aluminum producer, is making major changes to survive the latest wave of tariffs. In early 2025, the U.S. imposed new duties on Canadian aluminum, one of Alcoa's main supply sources. The result? Prices rose fast and so did the pressure. Alcoa quickly rerouted its Canadian shipments to Europe, where trade rules are more stable. To keep U.S. customers supplied, the company turned to its facilities in Australia, which are less affected by tariffs. But this workaround isn't cheap. Longer shipping times and higher freight costs are straining already tight supply chains. Now prices are rising on everything from soda cans to appliances and vehicles. Builders warn this could slow production and push up costs for everyday products. Alcoa's pivot shows how trade routes are being redrawn in real time. Instead of boosting U.S. manufacturing, companies are shifting to friendlier markets overseas. It's a clear sign that tariffs meant to protect domestic industries can end up moving production and profits out of the country. In May 2025, the Biden administration announced a steep 100% tariff on Chinese electric vehicles. The goal was to protect American automakers, but it sent shockwaves through the EV market. Chinese giant BYD, planning a U.S. expansion, immediately canceled its assembly plant in Texas. Instead, it's focusing on Europe, Southeast Asia, and Latin America. Another major brand, NIO, froze all U.S. imports for the year. These EV makers were set to offer affordable models that could have accelerated America's shift to clean energy. Now they're gone, leaving fewer choices and higher prices. U.S. companies can't meet demand alone. Tesla is facing delays, and Ford's EV rollout has slowed due to battery shortages. With less competition, electric vehicle prices could rise by over $3,000 per car, says Kelley Blue Book. Tariffs meant to support U.S. jobs are now slowing EV adoption. BYD's exit proves how fast global companies can pivot and how trade policy can reshape entire industries overnight. From Apple moving production to India to Stellantis cutting U.S. jobs and BYD leaving the market, tariffs aren't bringing manufacturing home. They're pushing it further away. Instead of rebuilding, these policies are driving companies to cheaper, more stable countries and raising costs for American families. What started as protection has turned into a global retreat. Aluminum is heading to Europe. E-commerce giants are pulling back, Toy makers and tech companies are leaving, and EVs, once a symbol of progress, are now harder to buy and more expensive. Subscribe to stay informed as global trade keeps shifting. Don't forget to like, share, and comment. Are these smart moves or signs of a broken system? Let's talk below. Tariffs were meant to protect American industries, but instead, they're driving companies away and putting jobs at risk. Subscribe to stay ahead of global economic shifts, and don't forget to like, share, and drop your thoughts in the comments below.